What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Cedar Flags, and what's going to turn out to be kind of a shorter episode for this series. By now you probably know that I tend to try to pack a lot into each episode, but this one's going to be kind of bite-sized just because of I had some things going on and life and that kind of stuff. So little bit of a smaller episode, but don't worry, we're going to return to the larger ones probably in the next one. I also want to point out that eventually I'm going to be having a gravity mod video where we kind of focus on the ride and do some cinematics and then a POV. I know a lot of you guys were asking for that in the last episode, but I just haven't gotten around to that. And I also want to do a little bit more decorating around the area before we do that cool cinematics. So probably 2 episodes from now we'll do that, so look for that. But yeah, what we're doing in this one is just kind of filling up this weird kind of awkward space in between the little chair swing and what is now gravity mod. So it was kind of weird. I had a couple suggestions from people in the last episode when I mentioned this, that they said to maybe do like a kiddie coaster or something like that, and it was a little bit too small for that kind of ride. So I found these Dodgems or bumper cars or whatever you want to call them, and I think they fit really well. So I kind of decided to raise these off the ground a little bit, and then we're gonna build in this episode a kind of like a tiered system of scenery around it, and we're gonna incorporate the queue and the exit into that. So that's what we're doing. It turns out pretty nice. For such a small little build, there were some really intricate and challenging moments in this. And the first thing you'll probably notice right now is these little walls. Now, the bumper car base isn't really to like a grid scale per the game's grid, so it's kind of awkward. Like, I had to take these brick walls and then make these buildings of just basically straight walls, and then cut other walls into their own separate building, kind of smush them into the right spot, and then merge them all with another wall because the grids just weren't properly aligning. So it was a little weird. It was just kind of strange. You're seeing me just kind of overlap some of these, and luckily the brick walls kind of mesh up really well when they're kind of put together in an awkward, I guess, situation. So as long as you can kind of line those brick mortar joints up, it really works out for the most part, and it doesn't clip through it. So it's kind of really interesting work around there. The problem is we have a lot of just unique buildings in this area now. So if I wanted to upload this to the Steam Workshop, it would really be kind of weird. I wouldn't be able to upload this whole base to it. But that does remind me that I always want to mention that the saves for this series always get uploaded to Steam. So you can go ahead and pick one of those up and just kind of continue Cedar Flags on your own game. And I don't know, I always like to see you guys do that. And if you ever do, tweet me a picture of it and let me know what you're doing in Cedar Flags. You never know, I might take some inspiration from that and work that into the series itself. So what we're doing is just kind of going through and placing some of these bushes around here just to fill up this area. So I really like the idea of having like this green space that's really well kept up with and tended to, and just having these kind of shrubs that are formed into shapes. Now, I kind of only use a couple of them. There are a lot of these, and I think eventually I do kind of want to do like a maze, like I guess a hedge maze somewhere. That might be kind of cool, and I was almost considering doing that in this area for this episode, but in the end I went with the bumper cars. But you know, we might end up doing that later, and we could work some of these really strange kind of shapes in at that point. But what we're doing is just kind of placing these, and one little trick that I kind of came up with here is to use those railings as spacing. So it's really hard to get like perfect spacing on things when you're kind of placing them bit by bit, especially when they're not on a grid like these shrubs are. So using the background, you can use those railings on the I guess station, or the ride rather, and kind of space it out by eye just a little bit. It takes a little bit of skill, I guess, but you know, after a while you kind of get used to doing that kind of thing if you do it enough. So I guess working in the graphics kind of industry kind of helps with that. But yeah, we're just going through and then going ahead and working outside of the brick areas that we just placed, and we're filling out this kind of weird, awkward space that we've created. And of course, we had to go back and grab these little path curbs that we artificially made. We didn't have the curves on the actual path like the game would put in, so we made our own. and it's a tedious process to get that back up, but I think that's the end of at least this over here for this specific curb, so luckily we won't have to do that ever again. But yeah, just filling that out. And then I think I realized this at one point, but I kind of always forget that the game has mulch as a texture. So I think I almost want to go back through the park and add some mulch to areas, because there's a lot of like green lawn space, but I feel like parks a lot of times will throw mulch down just so they don't have to cut the grass around that. So I think we could probably do that. I don't know if I'm going to put that in a video or not, but I guess we'll mention it if I ever do that. And we just have to fill out the rest of this area. So building this queue on the like when you can select a grid and build a path to it, that helped out tremendously because it's all nice and square, and then we can just build these brick walls around it once again. So really just, I didn't want to see any of the path supports or anything below the paths in this area. So just encasing that was kind of one of the goals of this build, and it was one of the bigger challenges. As you can see, we're just trying to fill in some of these awkward gaps and just the slope. Luckily, the 1 meter slope for the roof actually worked for that, so it was kind of nice it worked out, but I know sometimes stuff like that doesn't quite work out, and it can get really annoying, so we got lucky there. But yeah, we're just filling out some of this area with some nature. Again, this is one of those weird spots. It's right on the edge of the park, so like this game doesn't have gates around the park. You don't have any chain link fences, which is one thing they really need to add into this game. It's just a nice chain link fence, because parks use those a lot. I mean, you'll see that around the entrance and exits, or just around the perimeter of the park, and you'll see that a lot around like rides, and we just don't have that, so it's kind of unfortunate. We gotta kind of go and try to make our own kind of thing for that. But what we have been doing around this area was using these shrubs as a kind of like artificial line of like a wall, a perimeter wall for the park. So in a second here, we're gonna go ahead and grab that and then duplicate that whole kind of situation, I guess, and then fill this whole area out. It just gives the guests something to look at that's not like a blank field where they could be like, why didn't the park build out that way? And it's like, we don't have the ability to, unfortunately. So I just like kind of artificially putting a perimeter around here, and I'm gonna continue that throughout the park. Luckily, Alpine Spirit on the other side of the park kind of acts as its own kind of perimeter wall over there, so I like how that's turned out. But yeah, just kind of minding that as we move forward in this build is gonna be one of those things that we do. We're just kind of moving through and then finishing out this here the brick section, and then we have to flip over to the exit side and go ahead and finish this out. So really nothing terribly unique over on this other side, just kind of the same thing, putting these I guess rectangular bushes down and then filling the gap here, and then going through and putting the same kind of decoration throughout. So I guess one thing I do want to mention is if you're using nature in this game, like we just put those 4 spherical shrubs down, you'll see me go through and actually tweak the orientation. I'll take angle snap off and I'll just kind of rotate those at just a random amount, because it ends up giving it more of a natural look. So I guess the thing about this game is the shrubs are all one model. So the more variance you can introduce to that, the better. So if you just add a little bit of rotation, it makes it look like nature is at stake here. I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but nature is growing those by herself. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It looks way better than just having the same thing just down the line. So I try to do that with all trees and all shrubs if it I guess is applicable. So yeah, we're just kind of finishing this out, and then we're gonna go over and kind of put some benches into the area that we just kind of worked on, just kind of finishing this off, and then adding some lights, and that's gonna be about it. We'll go ahead and hop into the live portion. Again, a little bit of a shorter episode, but we'll go ahead and check out what we just did and plan for the future. Alright guys, so here we are in the live portion, and before we do anything, let's go ahead and just open the Bumpin Derby 5. Why 5? Because I don't know. Why 5? Like, I haven't built 5 of these, so I don't understand that. But anyway, that is what we were doing in the time-lapse of, again, going to be a little bit of a shorter episode. But yeah, I think the first thing to point out that I don't really think I talked about was the color match. I tried to match it fairly close in terms of the stripes here on the tops of these two rides. I just felt like it kind of pulled that area together. I think this area comes out really nice. Like, I love the kind of European type feel over on this row housing. And then over here you get, I don't know if European is the right word to describe this kind of classic theme park maybe style. So yeah, it's kind of a mishmash of styles, but I think it works out. Now, hopefully we'll get some people riding. Yeah, it looks like we will. And I'm kind of hoping that this queue ends up filling up a lot more than this queue does, because apparently everybody in this park really loves the chair swings. So usually the line is all the way at capacity. So I think Gravity Mod is still bustling. Yes, it is. People really like Gravity Mod, so I'm really excited about that. Again, the probably the episode after next. So yeah, let's talk about that right now. The next episode, we're probably going to move this way a little bit and start working on what I have in mind over here for a plaza. So hopefully we'll get at least this bridge done. So I really want to build a custom bridge here, which is why I wanted to hold off on the Gravity Mod video, because I want that to, it's kind of a marquee thing. You're going straight down under this bridge. So I wanted to build the bridge before we end up making like the promo video for Gravity Mod. So that's why that's going to be pushed back a little bit. But yeah, the next episode we'll go ahead and build that, finish out this a little bit, maybe make a little bit of tweaks to the park. Again, I really tend to neglect the fact that there's a nighttime in this game, and there's like no lights anywhere unless we kind of focused on that at one point. So yeah, we'll have to do that. I'm not sure if that'll be between now and the Gravity Mod video, but at some point we're going to go through and do probably just like a nighttime episode where we kind of just place down lights. So it's not looking like a lot of people... Oh, you know what? I forgot to turn this down to 0, so that's probably why no one wants to go on this ride. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some people on this ride. But yeah, let's kind of take a step back, I guess, and we'll turn on the cinematic mode here and just kind of look at this whole kind of tier system that I had in mind. So I love having these up over like the street level, if you will. So this cow is just bumping down the path here. I should mention that in between episodes I did a little bit of staff management, so it wasn't anything all that important. I hired a couple entertainers and I trained some people up. And the training in this game is kind of annoying because you have to like wait a certain amount of months before you can upgrade them. So yeah, just letting the game play and upgrading staff was not really all that entertaining to watch, so I kind of didn't record that at all. So but anyway, this whole area, I love how this came out. There's actually 3 tiers of this brick wall. So the first one is just this planter. I had originally almost wanted to put like a fountain in here. So I think I tried putting just a small like art block and then a fountain, like the water mist or something going over it, and it just didn't look good. Like from street level or path level, it looked kind of okay. It looked kind of convincing, but like as soon as you got up here, it looked really obviously fake. So I didn't want to have that. Hopefully, maybe they'll put in some sort of little like water feature or something where you can like fill this whole tier up with water and have like an actual fountain in there. That would be really cool. I don't really know how they would do that, but I don't know. I guess we could hope. But anyway, I love how the path is on its second level, and it's slightly lower than the actual ride itself. And then you kind of go up this last little incline up to the ride, and this is where you have some fun. And then eventually you'll go over here, and it's just a really simple exit, but it goes over this last tier of shrubs and then goes down to the main path. So really kind of an interesting look around here, just with that whole stepping system. And it really looks like this whole place was constructed. It looks like it was properly, like, there had to be foundations installed and all this kind of stuff. And it just, I love the look of this. It's so, like, it's such a small part of the park, but it's so good. I guess the one last thing that we want to talk about before we kind of wrap this up is this nature that is just thrown back here. It's one of those things where, like, it's not a focal point at all. It adds nothing to really anything except for the people in this queue here. They're looking over here and they're like, wow, that's some nature. And they're looking over here like, wow, those are people. And oh, that's also some nature. So that's exactly what our guests are thinking. Can guarantee it. But yeah, I guess that's going to be it. So in the next one, we'll kind of move down this main path, and then we'll call this kind of side of the park done, I guess. It's pretty much all built out. And this is the level of detail that you guys have come to expect in Cedar Flags, and this is the level of detail that we will eventually push out through the rest of this. It's going to be a long journey, but I'm glad you guys are around for it. So, guys, that's about it. If you liked this little short episode, give me a thumbs up. If you disliked it, that's okay. Give me a thumbs down. And until next time, I will see you back here in Cedar Flags.